Mercedes-Benz family of SUVs, a family of unrivaled vehicles waiting at your local dealer.
He's been covering the National Football League for 48 years. He currently works as Arizona Cardinals lead writer for GoPHNX.com. A longtime Hall of Fame voter, Howard Balzer.
You got
Rock and Manooch with Jimmy D.
Line, one of the storylines is there's been some speculation around the future of Kyler Murray in a Arizona Cardinals uniform. Of course, we know the big contract and the guarantees of 35 plus and all that good stuff. But Howard, I got to ask, I mean, could you see a scenario where there's somebody out there that is a quarterback away and they need a Kyler Murray and would somehow make a deal to get him out of there if this coaching staff doesn't want him?
Oh, I could see a lineup of teams right now for the guy coming off a torn ACL and you don't know when he's going to play again.
Sure, yeah.
Where they're just throwing a pile of draft picks at the Cardinals for Kyler Murray. I mean, the things that people come up with, and, you know, I thought this, I mean, heck, you know, we all know I've been covering the league for a long time. The salary cap has been there for a long time. And it's always amazing to me how people concoct these trade scenarios and don't even take into account, aside from the injury, don't take into account the salary cap ramifications. It's like people don't even realize that the cap exists. And so I haven't looked at it lately, but I'm fairly certain that if and it's not going to happen, but if the Cardinals were to find somebody to trade for Kyler Murray now, then next year there would be something like over a $55 to $60 million cap hit.
Wow.
Of dead money.
Yeah.
Of dead money going against your salary cap. And it's just, now I'm not saying that somewhere down the road that perhaps something like this might not be considered depending on what happens with him coming back from the injury and, you know, and all those things. But heck, if he doesn't come back from the injury strongly, then who else is going to want him anyway? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's especially a somewhat slow time of the year. Now the draft is over, the schedule's announced and all that, and people just have to create stories and create rumors. And most of them are worth about as much as the paper they're printed on. But of course, nowadays things aren't even printed on paper. So I don't know what the relevant analogy would be, but it's just a lot of wasted breath that ends up everyone talking about, and we're talking about it, and others are talking about it, when it doesn't make any logical sense in the
What kind of windows are we looking at if you were to get traded? I know June 1st is right around the corner, and then if nothing happened, it's mid-October, November, as far as the next trade period or something like that. What are the windows if anything like that were to happen with D-Hop?
The windows won't open. Right now, on May 18th, if you're going to trade them, you might as well be after June 1st, because then you're able to put some of the cap hit into next year. On the other hand, the Cardinals might want to take it all right now. I mean, from what I've seen, they're about $16 million under the cap, and that counts Murray's close to $30 million cap hit. So if they were to save about a little under $11 million this year, it's not like they have anywhere to spend it. Now it can roll over to next year if you have that, but if you're still able to count it this year, then so be it. Then you go into next year with without that extra. So, but like I said, I think the window is wide open now. You would think though that a team that would be interested in getting him would want him in there as soon as possible to start getting to know the quarterback and getting to know the offense and all those things. So and we have OTAs beginning next week. Then that goes into the mini camps in mid-June. And like I said, you think a new team would want to get him in there, but you still never know. It can happen pretty much at any time. And now with the draft passed any compensation won't come until the future anyway. So, like I said, I think the window's wide open, and then the only real deadline would be the trading deadline once the season obviously has started. About what I think it's 4 to 6 weeks in, or somewhere along those lines, where a little longer than that, maybe 8 weeks, where the trading deadline is.
Howard, in your long memory covering the National Football League, can you ever remember? Maybe it was the Detroit Lions who put up a big goose egg one season, where they were the underdog in every game. That is the way the odds makers have the Arizona Cardinals this season. 17-game schedule. They are the dog in every game.
And of course, we know that means a lot right now in May 18th. When we don't know what's going to happen to other teams, we don't know what their situations, are going to be. And so, but from the logical standpoint, there's no surprise about that. I mean, when I put together the ratings, by position for all the teams last week and finished it up this past weekend for Lindy's magazine, the Cardinals came up. They had the lowest aggregate position ratings of any team in the NFL. And that is, that goes along pretty much with they have the lowest over-under in terms of wins, which as of last week was about 4.5. And they have, the biggest odds for winning the Super Bowl. So none of that is surprising. And there might have been some teams in the past, who knows where that happened to, that maybe, they're playing a home game against a team that wasn't very good. And so you look out 3 months from now and you say, oh, maybe, the home team would be favored in that. Of course, with the Cardinals, we know the home field doesn't mean anything. I mean, I think you might have to give away more points when you're home, judging by the way this team has played in the last couple of seasons. We'll see if even that has the potential of changing as we go forward with all the new coaches and a new regime.
All right, I'm just curious. The rookie minicamp just ended. In reference to Colt McCoy, I know he's been doing some broadcasts with what the USFL would have you. What exactly is the injury, and will he be participating in the OTAs and minicamp that's going to be coming up right around the corner? Basically, what's his status right now?
Yeah, it's a good question because we're not told very much about it. And he was at the extra minicamp they had for the veterans right before the draft, but he wasn't throwing the ball at all. And so it's believed it's something to do with either his arm or his shoulder, which was bothering him last year somewhat in training camp. And so whether that's the same or not, we don't know. We haven't been given that information. So, next week when we're out there for one day for OTAs, don't know which day that's going to be. We'll see if he's throwing it all then, assuming he is here. Mandatory minicamp in June, we'll get a little better indication there. Everything we're told, they say, well, he's on track. He should be fine for training camp. But until we see it happen, then we really don't know. So that's one of the unanswered questions that's going on. In reference, you mentioned to the USFL, I was told by someone in the league that, and I put this on Twitter
3 minutes
ago, that he's scheduled to do 2 games for the USFL, and one of them, I believe, was at the end of this month, and one of them is in June. So I don't think he's been actually doing anything yet on some games. But like I said, he's been around, and that's the positive, and whatever he's dealing with, he's working on getting it better.
It makes you a little nervous, doesn't it? You look at Tune and Blau as you're truly your quarterback's out there, and Lord knows that Murray's going to come back, and they're not going to push him or rush him into situations. But I don't know. They might be a quarterback away from at least winning one game out of those first 6, because you look at that schedule. I mean, there's no bye week until week 14, and I think aren't they officially back in the NFC East now as well too? Those first 3 games when you look at the schedule.
Yeah, that's the way it worked out. Yeah, they opened with Washington and Dallas. Oh, I'm sorry, Washington, then the Giants, and then Dallas. So, 3 NFC East teams in a row. And certainly you look at the Washington game and you say,
2 minutes.
They're not bad, but that could be a winnable game. And, the Giants, as improved as they were last year, it's not like they were world beaters. I mean, they were 9-7-1 during the regular season. So, we'll see if they're able to duplicate that. So interesting that they are opening with those three teams. But yeah, I'm sure they're hopeful that it will be McCoy. Now, whether they look in, if all of a sudden in training camp and it looks like he's not going to be ready, perhaps they look for another veteran. At that point, it's not like there's a whole lot out there, but there are some quarterbacks hanging around. But like I said, not very many. That's what surprised me a little bit during this whole off season, is that with all the quarterbacks that change teams, and I'm talking about backup type guys, but are guys that have
1 minute, 1 minute.
They didn't make a move really to sign any of them except for this Jeff Driscoll, and so it's kind of strange the way they went about it. But that does tell me that they're not worried about Colt McCoy. However, I'll say this: the one thing you have to be considered. I mean, Colt McCoy, every time he's played in the last 2 years, he's gotten hurt a little bit, right? And so so that's one thing about him, that if he's your starter opening the season, well, who's the backup to him? Is it Blau? Is it Toon? Would they just say, hey, let's put the rookie out there and so be it, see what happens? That might be a little dangerous, but it's very hard to read what their true plans are with that entire situation.
Well, at least next week you'll have a good 20, 25 minutes at OTAs to actually figure it all out, right?
Well, you get that much now.
Definitely.
I think it's 25 minutes they
That's
get.
amazing.
They get 25 minutes. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, a lot of secrets exchanged there in 25 minutes, right, Howard?
Sad. It's just sad they don't.
Oh, yeah. The only time I have to double check the rules, and it might be that when they open the OTA that it has to be open the whole time. I'll have to double check.
Yeah,
that, but I
it
know
is. I just saw on a press release that you get 25 minutes, and then you can stick around, but you can't tweet, you can't report, you can't do anything, but you can just hang out and chill. So,
but for the minicamp, the whole thing has to be open. That's a league rule.
Yeah.
So at least when June rolls around for those 3 days, we'll have an opportunity to see a lot more than you get to see, because basically all we see in that 20 to 25 minutes. The first half of it is stretching,
right?
Which is very revealing.
Yeah.
And then this guy's just doing a bunch of individual drills. So that's essentially what it is in the off season for the most part, except for minicamp, and that's what it is during the regulars.
How times have changed. Howard, thank you for the time, bud. Appreciate it as always.
All right, guys. Talk to you next week.